the play that we can see it could otherwise have. The players are ready. The players are locked in. The players are going here in the grand finals at the Birmingham Regional Championships.
Kicking it off, we got Wigglytuff versus Gastrodon. Going to be trying to charm down the Gastrodon and get lots of this energy stored up. Is this something Maxy wants to utilize right now or bank it for later?
Water Pulse immediately being reached for by P4TOM4N. This will do a lot of damage. Same type attack bonus, and it will hit hard. It won't threaten a knockout. Wigglytuff takes it. Maxy doesn't want to give his shields up yet, and we've seen before what he can do when Annihilate preserves both of its shields.
Yeah, Gastrodon really trying to mud slap down as much as it can, but the Swift was already charged on that Wigglytuff side. It's able to unleash it. P4TOM4N lets it go through, needing those shields for later on, but Gastrodon still hangs on. It's at the body slam, but Wigglytuff gets there first.
Yeah, really well calculated by Maxy. He knows his matchups, and this is an example of where that comes really, really important. The Wigglytuff getting that burst shield from Gastrodon, and now the aggressive swap into the Universe Stunfisk, and here comes Annihilate with that shield advantage. Mud Bomb going through. It won't threaten a knockout, but it will do a decent amount of damage, but probably not as much damage as another attack might do later. So Maxy, very smart to not shield this.
Yep, letting that Mud Bomb come through, and now, of course, you can just keep Thunder Shocking as much as you can, but the Annihilate at that Rage Fist, even if a shield does go up here, it's still going to get that attack boost. It's still going to be formidable.
Now, the ideal situation here... Oh, actually, I wasn't expecting a shield to go up from P4TOM4N there, so I don't think Maxy's going to complain whatsoever, because Maxy is going to reach another Rage Fist on charge attack priority. So if he shields this and throws a Rage Fist, it will do a ton of damage to the Universe Stunfisk. The question is, will it be enough to knock out?
Well, that's the thing. Both shields are down on P4TOM4N's side, so this Rage Fist will be able to connect. There's nothing P4TOM4N can do. And not only does that possibly mean a knockout, it means another attack boost on this Annihilate.
And now there is both a Gastrodon and an Azumarill that has to take on a full health, not Annihilate, a Jellicent in the back, but you don't want to go into it yet because you want to go into this Gastrodon. And honestly, yes, it's a catch, but that Gastrodon had energy, and so at least the energy isn't being thrown, but from P4TOM4N's perspective, the energy was useless into the Jellicent, so you'd rather take your Gastrodon down so that your Azumarill can preserve as much health as possible.
It is a shame that, though, because P4TOM4N did use that shield on the Gastrodon earlier in order to preserve that energy, and it's kind of been for naught. Azumarill here being able to go for these bubbles, but as you can see, Jellicent able to take these so incredibly well. It's able to pace to the Shadow Ball, and with the Hex pressure as well, it's looking very difficult for Azumarill to get out of this.
P4TOM4N has basically let go of this game number one. He's using the extra time to prepare for game number two. That's why he's writing on his page. That's why he's not throwing an attack. He is using extra time where he can, because he knows that an Azumarill is not going to be a Jellicent in an even shield scenario, let alone when you are down one shield. Really well played by Maxy1000000P. He takes game number one of these grand finals.
Very calm, very controlled play coming through from Maxy1000000P here. Having that Annihilate in a position where it could just go for those Rage Fists and using the Wigglytuff, I think, expertly in order to set that up. The Charm put in a lot of work into that Gastrodon, and Gastrodon was just unable to really get momentum going against the Wigglytuff.
I think it was perhaps, as you called it, perhaps a mistake to shield that Gastrodon up. Yes, you got the alignment that you supposedly wanted, but actually you then gave it up immediately by aggressively going into the Universe Stunfisk. So you went down a shield, and you lost alignment, and the energy that you preserved had nowhere really to go. So there wasn't really much benefit from doing so, and I think that that's an adjustment, an easy adjustment that P4TOM4N can make, because let's remember, it's a best of 5, and he's on the winner side of the bracket, meaning he would have to lose 2 best of 5s before his gold medal is at risk.
Perhaps P4TOM4N wasn't expecting to see the Jellicent in the back, and that's maybe why he wanted to preserve that Gastrodon so much, you know, shielding it, keeping the energy in case it was something like a Steelix in the back, or even the Marowak where it can hold its own a little bit more. So maybe as soon as you saw the Jellicent, as you said, he realized the energy is useless. I'm going to have to put all my cards onto the Azumarill.
So many options available to both of these players, and we've mentioned the Azumarill and we've mentioned the Shadow Annihilate. At this stage of the grand finals, you would expect the players to continue to use the Pokemon that look best in the matchup. But later on in this matchup, we might start to see what is otherwise a crazy play. And that's because you have to start making calculated risks based on the information you get from your opponent. So again, Azumarill, I think it needs to come from P4TOM4N, and I think Shadow Annihilate needs to come from Maxy. Let's see whether or not the players agree.
The thing is, Maxy is playing so incredibly well with this Shadow Annihilate. Pokemon like Abomasnow and Forretress are going to be hesitating to come to this match. But if P4TOM4N can find a way to maneuver them in, maybe thinking if there isn't going to be Annihilate, that could be an option. We've seen him make bold plays like that before.
Now, the other thing that we need to consider, and I've been mentioning this time and time again, Maxy, particularly when he wins game 1, often leads the same lead for game 2.
Stays consistent.
He does. And I wonder if P4TOM4N is going to account for that, adjust for that, or if he doesn't mind. Let's see. What do we have? It's game number 2.
Well, there is going to be an adjustment on P4TOM4N's side. The Altaria has taken to the skies against that Wigglytuff.
Wigglytuff again in the lead for Maxy, and this time it gets a hugely beneficial lead, and Annihilate is being used to counter-swap the Univan Stunfisk. Maxy is pretty confident that there's an Azumarill in the back, so this is a great position for the Annihilate to be in, generally speaking, because P4TOM4N was playing what is arguably strong into the Annihilate, a flyer and with a fairy in the back, although I have to say, Annihilate does have play into Altaria as well.
It certainly does, but definitely having the Altaria against the Wigglytuff at the beginning was a big advantage there for Maxy. Now it's up to the Stunfisk to try and get some damage on the board. One of those precious shields utilized already on that Annihilate.
Now, the funny thing about this matchup is if the Shadow Annihilate can counter through this Univan Stunfisk, the boosted damage into the back is so oppressive. Altaria cannot take a boosted attack. Yes, Azumarill can, but do you really want to? So there is the catch. These are the kinds of plays that win championship titles. Azumarill is going to sponge this Ice Punch like it is nothing. Really well played by P4TOM4N.
This is exactly what P4TOM4N needed to stay in the game. Yes, the Jellicent comes in, but he was able to take all of that energy up.
Now, we've seen it before. Eric's mentioned it time and time again. Sometimes a catch looks nice, but sometimes it could cost you. And this could be one of those moments, even though it was an amazing catch to make, Jellicent is hard locked into this Azumarill, and Wigglytuff will be against that Altaria in the end game. So I think Maxy1000000P is absolutely comfortable in this game.
The thing is, P4TOM4N takes one step forward and Maxy takes a giant leap ahead of him. The Jellicent with that fast attack Hex pressure is just putting on such a formidable show against this Azumarill. Once again, another Shadow Ball is ready to go. Azumarill has to make a choice. It does go for that second shield. You don't often see 2 shields being utilized on an Azumarill.
Now P4TOM4N is coming in aggressively with the Altaria because his best bet is to try and take advantage of misaligned switch clocks. The thing is, Maxy's Wigglytuff is already ready to go, and just as it leans up for that Icy Wind, the Altaria is going to throw a Sky Attack first.
Yeah, just gets the edge before that super effective attack could be thrown in Altaria's way. The Sky Attack will land a significant chunk to that Wigglytuff, but look at that Icy Wind, Fareed.
And there are no Protect shields, amazing. So P4TOM4N, pen to paper once more. Is he already preparing for game number 3 as Wigglytuff takes down the Altaria and starts to charm through this Azumarill? There isn't an attack being thrown. There's the first Ice Beam. Could this draw a shield from the Wigglytuff?
We'll have to see if it's going to be able to, but Maxy's like, no, I've got 2 other Pokemon in the back. I think I've got this down against the Azumarill. Azumarill doing its best with the bubbles, but Wigglytuff already there with the Swift.
Yeah, you simply don't need to. Maxy has the Jellicent. His win condition is basically hard locked. These are some absolutely superb plays so far from the British player. Maxy1000000P about to take down this Azumarill, about to go 2 games up in these grand finals.
What an incredible show. This is exactly how you start off your journey to try and reset a bracket. I don't think Maxy1000000P lost a single Pokemon in that game.
He is really strong. He is a scary opponent to face. And P4TOM4N said that. He said very clearly, I don't think I'm particularly confident in these grand finals. I want to win. Of course I want to win. But what an opponent to have to go up against.
I really feel for P4TOM4N here because you've got such pressure coming through from Maxy's side. The Annihilate really giving Forretress and Abomasnow a hard time. The Wigglytuff making things difficult for the Altaria. It just means that P4TOM4N doesn't have a lot of wiggle room on his team to make bold adjustments, whereas Maxy on the other side almost doesn't need to. You've got this incredible core with the Wigglytuff, Jellicent, Annihilate that just, at the minute, P4TOM4N doesn't seem to be able to crack the code to beating it.
One more game for Maxy. We'll see him reset the bracket, but P4TOM4N, he has done miracles before. He has gone 2 games down and won 3 back-to-back, but he has to do that here if he wants to stay in this side of the bracket, because as soon as he loses, he effectively drops down to the loser's bracket to join Maxy, where everything will be to play for.
The way you have to look at it sometimes is these are the 6 Pokemon on your team, but the 7th member of the team is the player, and they sometimes can find avenues and positions that are going to be able to open up doors for success, even when the matchup doesn't necessarily look so strong. If Maxy, as you said, wants to maybe stick with these 3 Pokemon, P4TOM4N is the type of caliber player to find a path through to it, but it might just take a little bit of time.
Well, this is when we say that adjustments need to be made, and I think P4TOM4N is recognizing that the Jellicent continues to come, and the Azumarill isn't currently getting the value value that he wants it to. So I wouldn't be surprised if P4TOM4N now starts to account for the Jellicent, because it seems to be putting in so much work.
Well, let's see if Maxy can indeed reset the bracket already. It's going to be the Jellicent versus the Stunfisk. This is a great opening for P4TOM4N.
Yeah, this is exactly the adjustment we were talking about. Univ and Stunfisk getting the advantage lead. But the problem here is Altaria, in my humble opinion, is not an answer to a Shadow Annihilate, because you can start to threaten, and even if you don't shield, right? He is shielding, but even if you don't shield the Rage Fist, Annihilate can just punch through an Altaria. So let's see how Maxy plays out this shield scenario.
Yeah, Altaria really needs to get to these Sky attacks and start putting the pressure on Maxy, because as you said, these Rage Fists are stacking up. The counters are putting in a decent amount of work for all of that energy. One shield down on Maxy's side already.
Maxy goes up to the Ice Punch and throws another Rage Fist. Will P4TOM4N shield it, or will he make the call that this is not an Ice Punch? Even if he calls it, it's going to do a lot of damage. But now he gets to take shield advantage in this matchup. Maxy could shield and fully counter through. So he could be in a really good position as well, because all of this energy from the Shadow Annihilate still has somewhere to go into the backline. And now the Univ and Stunfisk comes back in. But Maxy's actually going to let it go and hard swap with the Shadow Kanto Marowak, because that is now a great position. Look at the backlines, Lou. Jellicent, it's not going to be against an Azumarill, it's going to be against a Gastrodon instead, and that is still a great matchup for Maxy.
Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, there's not a huge amount that Gastrodon can do into the Jellicent, and the Stunfisk also in a precarious situation here against this Marowak that's just going to be firing Mud Slap after Mud Slap. It is going for the Mud Bomb, but as you can see, the Marowak in a prime position already with all of that energy to start its offensive threat as well.
I love the adjustment from Maxy, dropping the Wigglytuff that put in so much work in all of the previous games, and instead going for the Shadow Kanto Marowak, anticipating that the Univ and Stunfisk might be involved, and now you get to put Bone Club pressure into the Gastrodon as well, and Maxy will be so pleased to see that Gastrodon. I think he might just let the Shadow Kanto Marowak get Mud Slap down, or go straight in with the Jellicent. There it is. Jellicent comes through. You sponge all the charge attack pressure from the Gastrodon, but you charge up, and if the Altaria comes back in, you can just start to unload Shadow Balls into it instead. There it is, and there is one Protect Shield remaining for P4TOM4N. If he doesn't use it here, Altaria will go down.
Yep, Jellicent utilizing the opportunity with Gastrodon to farm up all that energy. There's one Shadow Ball, and just after a couple more hexes, it's at a nuller. Gastrodon can try valiantly to try and get damage on the board, but we know that Jellicent is going to be able to eat this up and retaliate with the Shadow Ball. That's going to be devastating for this Gastrodon. Yeah,
one Surf being thrown. This can draw the shield. Now Maxy can either stay in with the Jellicent or go in with the Annihilate, which I think is 1 or 2 counters away from a Rage Fist. Switch clocks aren't up yet, so I think he'll just stay and force energy with the Jellicent, because Jellicent is putting in so much work in this matchup, and P4TOM4N has to just accept and concede that this first best of 5 was not for him. He might actually ask the judges for a break in between these, because Maxy has absolutely moaned through him in this first series.
Oh my goodness, a bracket reset. You know what that means? More Pokemon action, and Maxy is still in contention to become a regional champion. He did say the only medal color he hasn't got yet is gold, and he can almost taste it now.
It looks like the judges will let the players have a break. Call a taxi for P4TOM4N. There's no stopping Maxy. Maximilian-P has now reset the bracket. Will go into those grand finals with complete parity, everything to play for. The next best of 5 will determine your Birmingham regional champion.
Oh my goodness, you couldn't write a better script if you tried. Now we have to really think from their perspective. We've obviously seen Maxy's come out so dominant, so strong, giving P4TOM4N no room to maneuver. If you're P4TOM4N now, you're going to take this break. How do you regain your composure and find a way through this formidable threat of the Pokemon that Maxy has been bringing?
Well, there was one Pokemon that you called out at the beginning of this series for Maxy. You mentioned his Shadow Annihilate, and my goodness were you right, Lou, because that Shadow Annihilate has done absolute damage to the team of P4TOM4N, and probably wasn't a Pokemon that he was particularly expecting to see in this tournament. It has completely fallen out of the meta. So few were there, and even with catches like these Ice Punches, Maxy had the answer. Jellicent coming in, which does so well against both Gastrodon and Azumarill. So anything that P4TOM4N is throwing at the Annihilate, the alternative Ghost is the answer for.
That's the thing, the synergy between these ghosts hand in hand on the field has made things so difficult for Padaman, but also the previous contenders that Maxy has had to deal with to get to this very position. Padaman, I think, has played very interestingly with the Gastrodon. In the very opening game, we saw him try and preserve it. It then got benched. It's then come forward again here. I think he was really trying to get that mud slap damage off onto possibly into the Annihilate or into that Marowak, but it just kept finding its face down against that Jellicent, and it was just a wall it could not break through.
Now, do you know what's particularly interesting? Shadow Annihilate gets so much of the attention, and it's very clear that Shadow Annihilate is so strong into Pataman's team. But what's perhaps going a little bit more unnoticed is how good Jellicent actually is.
Yeah.
Jellicent has a way to hit the whole of Pataman's team. It is so flexible into Pataman's team that Maxy can bring it freely. And Pataman is so focused on trying to suppress the Annihilate that suddenly he's given up both of his shields, and Jellicent just comes through, often with shield advantage, and just sweeps up everything else. Even the Abomasnow. It can't throw Powder Snows and Weather Balls into Jellicent to much effect. It has to go for Energy Ball. And the Jellicent has Hex and Shadow Ball, so it's actually doing neutral pressure with one of the most efficient attacks in the game against everything. Is there anything that really, really dominates against the Jellicent? Yeah, maybe the Univan Stunfisk, which takes super effective damage from the Surf anyway. And then when Maxy pairs it with an Annihilate that has Ice Punch, and the Shadow Kanto Marowak, no wonder Pataman wants a break. He needs to completely reassess how he's going to try and take on this team.
That was a beautiful ode to Jellicent, if I do say so myself. It has so many options out there on the field, and even though it is one of the ghost types that's really, I think, surprised us, you know, getting second place in Toronto, and now here at the very least going to get second place again here in Birmingham, the Shadow Annihilate has really been one of those ghost type Pokemon that I think everyone's a little bit more familiar with. It's able to have so much pressure with this fast attack counter into a lot of the steel types that we're seeing running around at the moment.
Now, it's no secret that I am absolutely a huge fan of Shadow Annihilate, and I really, really encourage everyone to have one on their roster if you don't already. And one of the reasons why it's so good is because of both offensive and defensive reasons. The offensive reason is that fighting plus ghost is what we call near perfect coverage, if not perfect coverage. There are little to no Pokemon in the game whatsoever that resist both fighting and ghost type damage, and when you pair that with the coverage of Ice Punch that's hitting those dragons and those ground types, they're super effective as well. Annihilate is an absolute threat, but defensively, ghost and fighting type, it's a unique type combination that we don't see really anywhere else in the Great League. It double resists the bug bites of that fortress. That's why Pataman hasn't been able to use his signature pick almost in this matchup, but it also beats all other fighters, and it completely pushes so many other fighters out of the meta. So Shadow Annihilate might not be in the top usage, but it absolutely is one of the top picks this weekend.
But I think you hit the nail on the head there with the coverage utility as well, particularly that Ice Punch into all the dragons that we're seeing at the moment. We even saw it previously in that game where there was an opportunity for Maxy to have been able to go for the Ice Punch onto the Altaria, and that's kind of one option. But the fact you had the second option to be like, actually, I can go for the Rage Fist and maybe get the extra boost up that I'm going to need for later on that can still completely destroy this Altaria, just shows how flexible the Annihilate can be.
Sometimes it's all about getting value. And one of the reasons why Credilli was so good last season was because even if Rock Tomb is shielded, you still get that attack debuff. Now Annihilate is coming in, and even if the Rage Fist goes shielded, you still do so much damage with those counters. And Shadow Annihilate with Shadow counter and Shadow boosted Rage Fist. Wow, that is damage.
I mean, we're super lucky, right? We have a literal front row seat to all of this competitive action. And if you at home maybe want to get an even closer seat and get a physical front row seat to all of the action, you can come and spectate at the next event by looking on RK9 and signing up. You can either come as a spectator or even as a competitor and maybe try your own skills against some of the best that this game has to offer.
It's really, really exciting to be here. We're back in the Championship Series. We all hope you had a great holiday break, but the action, we have been eager to get started, and even though it's cold outside, my goodness, it's been heating up indoors. Shadow Annihilate, currently the story, but Padaman, he also still has everything to play for. He still has a great opportunity to bring this back, and he's back in his seat, and he is ready to lock in and try and get his gold here in Birmingham.
And I don't think I can state this enough. Padaman is the type of player who can take a match that we just saw, you know, a 3-0, very very commanding defeat, regroup, and come back with a plan. And he is a trainer who we cannot count out at all.
Yes, he is so good. And best of fives mean that there is everything to play for and that there is opportunity to try some crazy tactics, to try something to really throw off your opponent. He did it before against Inadequance at the beginning of the day, where he played a hard ABA strategy with a Bomber Snow and Shadow Fortress into a Shadow Talonflame team. What tactics can he deploy here to try and bring the momentum back in his favor? Let's find out. It's game number 1 of the Grand Finals reset.
One more best of 5 to determine our champion. That's Shadow Annihilate front and center, but Panaman bringing that Azumarill straight away. Gonna try and get the bubbles down, trying to get that pressure with the play roughs.
Annihilate is not very good in a matchup against Azumarill, but when shields are up, it's protected. And so it banks that Rage Fist and goes into the Jellicent. Maximilian-P. Jellicent to be met with the Altaria, and Jellicent has Shadow Ball to put decent pressure onto it.
Yeah, the thing is, Jellicent, I think, has a great time if you can get through this Altaria. There's only the Azumarill and Gastrodon in the back, so you can just let the Shadow Balls fly. That's exactly what it's done into the sky for this Altaria that's desperately trying to get to this Sky Attack.
Sky Attack will do a decent amount of damage, but you'll need more than one if you want to take out the bulky Jellicent. Jellicent continuing to hex up really efficient plays with those Shadow Balls now, and you can see how much it's charging up and how quickly it's doing so as well.
But I feel like Panaman almost needs to protect this Altaria in the sky, because the Dragon Breaths and the Sky Attacks are going to be the only way to get through this Jellicent. It's just able to hang on from that Shadow, but it's not enough to be able to get to the Sky Attack. Now it's going to be up to the Water types to try and deal and get vengeance with this Jellicent.
And look at that, the Altaria, which answered the Jellicent, wasn't much of an Altaria in practice, and now it's going to be really difficult to get rid of this Jellicent. You're going to have to try and hard mud slap through because the Azumarill won't be able to bubble down. Pataman now really trying to focus on how do I start to give up shields but still cover for that dangerous Annihilate that returns.
You're not even able to deal with the Jellicent before another Ghost types takes its place, and all this energy from the lead that has been preserved on this Annihilate is now being unleashed onto the Gastrodon. The Rage Fist is angry. It's getting a +1 attack. Gastrodon has to pull everything it can into this Water Pulse.
And the nice thing about the Annihilate's Ghost typing is that it double resists Body Slam, forcing Pataman to go up to that Water Pulse. He does throw the Water Pulse, but it goes shielded, and now Azumarill comes in to drag that next shield away with the super effective Play Rough.
Pataman is trying to pull out all the stops. All the energy that had been preserved is being unleashed towards Annihilate, but there's shield after shield, Rage Fist after Rage Fist. There's so much momentum on Maxy's side.
Maxy still has the Jellicent, and he's also got that Wigglytuff available as well, so it looks like he's in a pretty good position here, and the Annihilate is boosted. There is the attack coming through, and Maxy's going to switch out so he doesn't take the pressure onto the Annihilate, and he can start to charm. All shields are down, and Maxy is starting to mow through yet again in these Grand Finals.
There's so much energy preserved on that Annihilate as well that Wigglytuff can now just come in and take all the energy from this Azumarill so that when Annihilate rejoins the field, it can get angry once again. This Swift coming through, there's nothing Pataman can do here.
It's been so flexible. Maxy's team, Wigglytuff everywhere, Annihilate dipping in and out, Jellicent with play into everything. Altaria came in to try and beat the Water type as a Dragon type, but it couldn't hang on to the Shadow Balls. And now Wigglytuff is going to use Swift to take out the Gastrodon, and he still has 2 Pokemon left in the back.
Yeah, Gastrodon was already barely hanging on. 1 star was all it took to fell it back into its Pokeball, and now Azumarill just hanging on. But once again, these 3 Pokemon on Maxy's side, he's brought them time and time again. They are relentless, and they're still hanging on. None of them got KO'd there.
Shadow Annihilate core with the Wigglytuff. We know how strong that is, but Jellicent as the third is just so dominant in this matchup. Jellicent has play into everything. Pataman tried to bring the Altaria as an answer, and Jellicent did not care. The Annihilate is the one that takes advantage when shields go down. Wigglytuff then sweeps up the rest. What can Pataman possibly do to bring this back into his favor?
I am racking my brains for the answer to that exact question. I'm sure Pataman is doing the exact same. I mean, you've got the Stunfisk that has that electric type coverage to deal with the Jellicent. You even have, a Bomber Snow with the Energy Ball. But the issue is you've got Wigglytuff right there that has so much bulk that is very difficult to get through and Annihilate. If it can get those counters down in the Bomber Snow, then it's going to be an absolute avalanche.
It might well be the case that Pataman had the team comp advantage in those winners finals against C. Leonardo, where on paper, credit to C. Leonardo for trying to fight through, but there really wasn't much that he could do. And I think now Pataman is receiving the other end of that. And this is what happens when you play anti-meta. It's almost like there's a triangle. You have, let's say, meta at the top.
Yeah.
Now, almost like rock, paper, scissors, where rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, and vice versa. Pataman's team was beating a lot of the meta. See, Leonardo brought a roughly meta team, but that Shadow Charger bug, and Pataman really dispatched it. And Maxy almost has a team that is so anti-meta. It's beating Pataman's anti-meta team as well, because we don't see that Shadow Annihilate. We don't see tons of the Shadow Steelix either, but Jellicent, it didn't feature a huge amount in Toronto, but it is stealing the show here in Birmingham.
He's truly in a league of his own right now with this team composition, and Maxy is executing it so perfectly, staying so calm, so composed, and really putting the European International Champion on the back foot. I feel like Maxy knows it's just a matter of a few more games and he can taste that gold medal for the very first time. Pataman at the same time knows he has to dig deep to stop that from happening.
And he's not getting too excited. He's staying composed. He is staying focused. He is staying locked in, because everything is still to play for. He needs to win 2 more games, but if he carries on playing with the caliber that he's shown so far, then the title could be his. Let's get into game number 2 of this Grand Finals reset.
Well, Fortress is here for Pataman, adjusting things rapidly. Wigglytuff in play, gets out of there. There's the Annihilate. Of course, Fortress has to go.
Fortress has to go, but Pataman had the advantage. But what we've said before is that Altaria isn't necessarily the best swap into a Shadow Annihilate. Pataman previously shielded a Rage Fist base. This time he calls it, but what he might not know is that Annihilate, if it just double shields, will still counter through an Altaria.
This is why counter is such an incredible fast attack. It's able to get through all this energy onto the charge attacks. There's the first shield. If it gets the second one, if it's able to get these Rage Fist boosts, it's going to be unstoppable.
Here we go. Maxy goes up to the Ice Punch once more, now throws a Rage Fist. It pulls the shield, but as we've said before, your attack is still boosted, and so you continue to put pressure onto this Altaria. Altaria, it's going to throw another Sky Attack, but Maxy will start to now put real pressure, and Pataman might start to realize, hold on a minute, this Annihilate is taking on what I thought was otherwise a counter to it.
I mean, these counters themselves looks like they can almost completely farm down this opposing Altaria, but hey, why don't you get another Rage Fist boost in for your troubles?
Now Pataman has to make a shield decision. He is going to shield, but does the counters continue to go through? That is the question. Look at this. He does hold on, and he is able to throw a Sky Attack, and that might just be because Maxy kept going up to the Ice Punches rather than throwing the Rage Fist straight away. So Pataman is able to preserve alignment, and that could be massive going into the end game. Jellicent comes in, gets a little bit of a head start, and now, even though Univan Stunfisk is an answer, Surfs will start to put a little bit of pressure onto this Pokemon.
I mean, if you're Pataman, you have finally dispatched that Annihilate, but at what cost? Your shields were all utilized on that Altaria, and as you said, the Surfs coming through are now going to be devastating into the Stunfisk. It has a lot of work to do. The Thunder Shocks are helping, the Discharge are there, but Discharge is not an overwhelmingly powerful charge attack.
And now Jellicent will need to have a think as to how it wants to maneuver. Maxy might take this Discharge and farm up a tiny bit more before taking out the Univan Stunfisk so that it can then try and throw an attack into the Fortress. Fortress has a really difficult matchup into the Jellicent because the Bug Bite is resisted. Bug Bite also resisted by the Wigglytuff, but at least in that matchup, you resist the Wigglytuff's attacks as well.
Yep, here we go. We've got the Fortress in play. It's just trying as best as it can to get through, but look at this, Jellicent's on form.
So now I would expect Maxy to go straight into the Wigglytuff. That way that even when Wigglytuff gets debuffed, you can clear the debuff right at the end with the Jellicent. And Pataman's almost looking to the crowd in despair. He goes, I got the lead I wanted. I got the counter swap I wanted. I kept the alignment, and I still cannot take down this team from Maxy1000000P.
The amount of Shadow Ball damage that was dealt into that Fortress was devastating. It just meant that all the momentum was lost. Now Wigglytuff here to once again throw a Swift into Pataman and take Maxy one game closer.
Maxy1000000P, 2 games up in these Grand Finals, and we have said that this is so critical for him. He needs to keep his composure, but the big question for Pataman is what can he do? Because even though Annihilate draws away the shields, it's the Jellicent that's actually turning out to be somewhat of a star in this matchup as well. The double Ghost from Maxy1000000P is unstoppable. Maxy1000000P's Jellicent with the Surfs against the Univan Stunfisk, 2 of them were enough to take out, and there's really not very much that Pataman has been able to do so far. He has to win every game now if he wants to be our Birmingham Regional Champion.
This is the thing. I liked the Fortress. I liked the lead. I liked the way he was able to keep the alignment, but as you said, it still wasn't enough. At this point, what can Pataman do? I think the adjustment was fantastic, but at the same time, now that you've seen the Fortress, is this an adjustment that Maxy1000000 can make?
I have so much sympathy. I have so much love for Pataman, don't get me wrong, but I have so much sympathy for this matchup.
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard.
I hope that better players than I might be able to comment. Let me know in the Twitch chat. But I cannot work out a strategy for Pataman that is remotely reliable. You're almost banking on Maxy to try and make a horrendous mistake if you want a chance to claw this back. But Maxy is playing the games of his lives. He knows how much of an advantage he can have, and he's not letting up at all.
That can indeed be the option, though. Like I said, it's the 7th member of the team is the player. And if you maybe hesitate, make a move, particularly as you are one game away from becoming champion, Maxy might make a hesitation. But let's see if he can do it. Are we going to be able to crown our champion in a moment? It's Gastrodon versus Annihilate.
And here we go again in this matchup. Depending on the attack stat of the Shadow Annihilate, you can, with shields, just fully bully through the Mud Slappers. Maxy1000000P perfectly happy to stay in. But very interestingly, although the Jellicent remains in the backline, it's actually Shadow Steelix that has been chosen. And when we look at the backline, there is an Altaria there that is a much better matchup for it than the Univan Stunfisk.
Yeah, Maxy with the game advantage does have more time to maneuver maybe in some options. As you see here, this is a fantastic play here for you're getting that body slam through that is double resisted on the Annihilate side, so a wasted shield on Maxy's side.
And there, as we get towards the water path, Maxy is able to throw this Rage Fist. That will take down the Gastrodon. Does Pataman want alignment? I think on this occasion, he recognized that he can't afford to give shield advantage to a Jellicent, so he's going to try and farm down with the Univan Stunfisk. Is he successful? Yes, he is! Finally, Pataman starts to see something in his favor because Univan Stunfisk with energy has so much play into the backline, and suddenly Pataman sees light at the end of the tunnel, and Maxy knows this could be a really tricky mid-game.
A door of opportunity opened, and Pataman and the Stunfisk are walking through it. One discharge, a second one here. This is everything that the Stunfisk needs to deal with this Jellicent. It also has a shield up its back pocket to deal with the Surf that is incoming.
Surf shielded up correctly, it would do a lot of damage to that Univan Stunfisk, and now the Stunfisk is going to throw discharges because it is using a 2-turn fast attack in Thundershock against the 3-turn fast attack in Hex. It's very, very difficult for Maxy to try and catch one of these attacks onto his Shadow Steelix, and he tries to, but now he's in a little bit of trouble because these Mud Bombs are super effective. There are no shields remaining, and Crunch probably isn't going to be enough to knock out, whilst Thunderfang is triple resisted by the Univan Stunfisk, but Pataman's going to come in with his Altaria as Flamethrower will be enough to knock out.
Yeah, Stunfisk still has some energy bank there in the back as well, so now Altaria in a prime position to take this Crunch. It can start going for these Dragon Breaths, farming up some energy of its own, trying to even maybe get to that Flamethrower.
Maxy is going up to the Psychic Fangs. Pataman actually letting him reach it. I wasn't sure if he'd throw a Flamethrower beforehand, but he knows that he can hold on to the Psychic Fangs, so he's going to maximize his energy instead, and now he's going to go for that Flamethrower, but he is now defense dropped. He's very, very weak there with that Altaria. Does he throw a Sky Attack into the Jellicent and go straight into the Univan Stunfisk? The switch timers aren't quite up yet.
Well, Jellicent is the last remaining Pokemon here, and you have the 2-to-1 advantage. Altaria is able to get to its charge attack. It is going to be able to go for the Sky Attack into the Jellicent, and then you do have energy still back down that Stunfisk in the back if you need it.
And it looks like Sky Attack is enough! Pataman with a grin on his face. He's like, I've done the impossible. I've taken my game off Maxy, who was on a 5-game streak against him. So is this enough to give Pataman some confidence going into game number 4 of this Grand Finals reset?
Well, the adrenaline has got to be surging right now through Pataman. He knows that it's not going to be a clean sweep. He's got scores on the doors right now, and he's in a position where he's gaining the momentum. Maxy did have a little bit of a smile at the end, being like, okay, fair enough, you've got me, but now he's got to lock in and try and get that game back off Pataman. Otherwise, Pataman's going to take this momentum and run. We've seen him do it before.
I wouldn't be surprised if Maxy very, very quickly drops that Shadow Steelix, because Univan Stunfisk is one of the few ways that Pataman can answer the Jellicent, and when it has a great matchup into the Shadow Steelix as well, which let's remember, it doesn't have Earthquake, I don't see much point bringing that Shadow Steelix, and I think that maybe Maxy tried it as an option because he was able to, being 2 games up.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised to see it again in this series.
Maybe trying to give it a moment into this grand final spotlight. I mean, one of the other things that went down in that game was the interaction between the Altaria and the Annihilate. You know, Altaria was able to get that edge, and I think both trainers did a very good job of burning through their opponent's shields very early on, setting up their partner Pokemon for success. It then enabled the Stunfisk, for example, to get back-to-back discharges onto that Jellicent. It didn't have the protective cover of a shield like we've seen Maxy use on that Jellicent in the past.
Now Maxy has to think, what adjustment does he make? If I were Maxy, I'd probably just go back to the Wigglytuff. The Wigglytuff plus Shadow Annihilate plus Jellicent in any order has so much play into Pataman. And if Pataman leans into that Gastrodon and Azumarill again in particular, then Jellicent could go crazy. So let's see. We are now into game number 4 of this Grand Finals reset.
Another championship point for Maxy, and it is that Wigglytuff back in action against the Stunfisk. We've seen this a couple of times in the leads. The Charms coming through, getting all of that energy up. The Stunfisk as well, ready for the Mud Bomb.
Maxy very happy to see the Stunfisk in the lead because it means that Jellicent is likely to have a reasonably strong matchup in the back no matter what Pokemon they are, but we can see that those Pokemon are Gastrodon and Azumarill, so it's actually the best possible situation that Maxy could be asking for here.
Yeah, the Jellicent isn't going to worry too much when it sees those water types come through, so Wigglytuff doing everything it can to deal with the formidable threat of the Stunfisk. Gastrodon reveals itself. Jellicent is here to be like, hi, remember me? I'm here to haunt your nightmares.
And I like this from Pataman because bringing the Gastrodon to bait out the Jellicent means that Azumarill might have more play in the back, particularly if Pataman can start to get shields down, because Annihilate struggles to function when shields aren't in play. The Univern Stunfisk still has enough health and enough energy perhaps to take on the Jellicent even if Gastrodon goes down first.
Well, Gastrodon's going to have a tough time doing damage, but potentially if it is able to get those shields up to leave the Annihilate more exposed, that's going to give Azumarill a window of opportunity to get damage on the board. But right now, all this energy being farmed up on the Jellicent does make it a formidable threat. There's still one shield left on Pataman's side. Is he going to use it? Yes, he's keeping Gastrodon in the game.
I really like this play from Pataman. He's committing to the Mud Slaps and now throwing a Body Slam to prevent having to take another attack. But what it does is it starts to invite shields from Maxy. Maxy is keeping those shields for the Shadow Annihilate, but it will need to potentially shield attacks from this Gastrodon. It's not going to want to take that option, so Wigglytuff's going to come in first to sponge.
Well, Gastrodon did what I think it thought was impossible and took down the Jellicent. It now has to find its way through the Wigglytuff. It gets another KO. Now it's just the Annihilate against all 3 of Pataman's Pokemon.
So can Pataman reach an attack? He's not going to be able to reach a Water Pulse without risking Rage Fist on Charge for attack priority. So he's throwing this Body Slam, and if Maxy's been counting, he knows he doesn't need to shield this. The question now for Pataman is, can fast attack pressure be enough? Because you cannot reach 3 attacks with an Azumarill against this Annihilate. So I wouldn't be surprised if Pataman is now just going to tap his way unless he thinks he can also reach an attack with the Univern Stunfisk.
That's the thing, Azumarill pace is so slow to these charge attacks, but on the other side, the Rage Fist is ready. The Rage Fist does have to come through. There's no Protects here, and it's going to get a constant attack boost, but the HP is dwindling down on this Annihilate. Can the bubbles keep coming through?
I think Pataman has to just bubble. There's no point throwing a charge attack here. Just go for the bubble down, go for the full farm. That is your best chance, and I think you're going to be able to, because the Univern Stunfisk, it's going to be tricky. Come in with the Gastrodon, you force an immediate throw. That takes up some energy.
Well, let's have a look. We're going to see the energy coming through on this Annihilate. It is indeed going to be the Ice Punch coming through. This is going to be able to get the knockout, but then can Gastrodon do it?
It should be able to Mud Slap down because the Rage Fist isn't going to be reached. And now Pataman takes game number 4, 2 games to 2, and everything to play for in this best of 5 now.
That's my boy, Gastrodon and Pataman. I called it at the beginning of the day. I said Pataman with Gastrodon would be his MVP, and now regardless of our next match, he's proven why they work so well side by side together. He's in it from the jaws of defeat. He is now 1 game away from becoming your champion.
A tactic from Pataman to pull out the Jellicent. And you think, oh, is Jellicent going to just take down the Gastrodon and get out of the way for the Azumarill? But Pataman double shields the Gastrodon, and he tries to just force the Mud Slaps through. And for the first time, it's not the Shadow Kanto Marowak Mud Slap pressure that really adds up, but the Gastrodons. And wow, Pataman in the endgame able to use full fast attack damage to take down the Shadow Annihilate. Definitely something that Maxy needs to be wary of.
Well, I'm out of my seat now because on the edge of it was getting dangerous. Both of these trainers, 1 game away, championship point for both of them to become our champion. I mean, Maxy, he was on such a tear, resetting the bracket, taking Pataman to 2-0, but Pataman has evened the score. Now, more than anything, they need to dig deep, have their resolve, and make the call. Which 3 Pokemon are going to make them a champion?
Clearly, the break between the 2 best-of-5s has done wonders for Pataman. Even though he continued to lose the first 2 games of the series, he had enough time and opportunity to start to adjust and what an adjustment he made. Getting so much value out of that Gastrodon, the MVP that you called right at the beginning of the day, but now it's Maxy's turn. Can he take advantage of his brilliant matchup here with the Jellicent and with the Shadow Annihilate, as well as the Wigglytuff? So much to play for. Everything on the line.
This is the thing. P4TOM4N has proven that the Annihilate, Wigglytuff, Jellicent core is not invincible. But Maxy has proved how formidable it can be. If they can just regroup and refocus, it's going to be a challenge for P4TOM4N once again.
Yeah, when you can get a scratch against your opponent and then you get a scar, you know that you can take them down. No one is untouchable in this series, and these players will do everything they can to fight for victory, to try and achieve glory here. Shadow Annihilate features one more time up against UNITE and Stunfisk.
This is it, your final match. Both these trainers battling it out. Stunfisk, Annihilate getting all of that energy up. Stunfisk gets there first, but we know those Rage Fists, how formidable they can be. Annihilate unleashing it now.
Shadow Annihilate puts out so much pressure, and when we look at those backlines, Jellicent potentially against a Gastrodon, Wigglytuff potentially against an Altaria, could switch be key here. P4TOM4N is going to try and do everything to put pressure on this Annihilate, but if Maxy shields the Annihilate, this could get really dicey.
This is the thing, there's no Azumarill in the back for P4TOM4N to deal with this Annihilate, so Stunfisk has to put the work in. One shield goes up, the Annihilate is still in the game, farming up all that energy, but the Gastrodon is going to be the one taking the rage of the fist.
Shielding that first Rage Fist, and now Maxy gets the opportunity to go into Jellicent. That would leave the Wigglytuff in the back, but the Wigglytuff comes out now! Maxy has made a very hard call to put the Wigglytuff against the Gastrodon, potentially thinking Azumarill's in the back so that Jellicent can be saved for that. Instead, P4TOM4N's adjustment of Altaria instead could be key.
Well, that's the thing, Altaria can go for those fast Dragon Breaths and just go through the remaining HP on that Annihilate right now. Wigglytuff doing what it does best, going for this Icy Wind, trying to just slow down the offensive pressure of this Gastrodon, getting some damage in play.
P4TOM4N absolutely over the moon to see Wigglytuff here. He knows he's got an Altaria in the back, and whatever is in the back for Maxy cannot be worse than Wigglytuff would have been for the Altaria. And Altaria aggressively comes in, and Maxy goes, oh, that isn't what I was expecting. But we've seen before, Jellicent isn't bad at all against Altaria because of the recently buffed Shadow Ball.
That's the thing, it's not great, but it's definitely not devastating. You can go for these Shadow Balls. There's the shield coming through. Now P4TOM4N has no more of those remaining, so the Shadow Balls are going to be able to fly. Speaking of flying, however, Altaria gets to his charge attack, this Sky Attack. Is it going to land? No. Maxy says, I'm preserving it. I need to get all the energy I can for these Shadow Balls.
UNITE and Stunfisk still has a little bit of health. Annihilate still has a little bit of health, but doesn't have any energy. Sky Attack coming through just before this first Shadow Ball, but P4TOM4N will be trying to reach another Sky Attack. However, Jellicent just paces so quickly. So is a catch on the cards. If you get it wrong, it could be over. At what point does UNITE and Stunfisk come through? Maxy is very, very good at not throwing at the wrong time.
Every single turn counts. Shadow Ball comes through. The Stunfisk is in play. It's going for these Thunder Shocks, trying to farm down, but instead it's going to find its mark on the Annihilate. No shield in play, so we know that this Mud Bomb's going to be able to get the knockout. Then it comes down to Jellicent.
Maxy has drawn all the energy away from this UNITE and Stunfisk, which means Jellicent gets to fully farm down, and I think Jellicent could be in a great position here, but the fast attacks are doing damage on both sides.
Oh!
Can Jellicent now land two attacks? One Shadow Ball against the Altaria, one attack against the Gastrodon. Maxy cannot afford to make a mistake. He's been in this position before, but this could be the moment because Shadow Ball can take out this Altaria, and he does have a Surf loaded too.
This is the thing, you've got to get back-to-back charge attack. One Mud Slap coming through can change the fate of the game, but no, for Maxy1000000P, the Jellicent comes through. It's another charge attack. It's taken down the Gastrodon. Maxy1000000P has done it.
Maxy takes down the Gastrodon. He is your champion. Birmingham is his, and he cannot believe it. His head in his hands, and he told us, I don't know how I would react if I win, and I can only imagine the emotions going through his mind right now, because that was one of the best series I have ever seen. The joy, the spectacle. We have had such an immense matchup here, and it could not be a more deserved winner.